Hello everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations, and you're with Simon today. And today's video, we're going to be doing just an astrology update, talking about the summer solstice that's taking place for us today here in the Northern Hemisphere. The sun's on a cardinal point, right smack bang in the Cancer archetype, so we're dealing with a very interesting point within the natural zodiac, and maybe just talking a little bit about the upcoming solar eclipse that's going to be happening on the 10th of, sorry, not the 10th, but in 10 days' time. Talk a little bit about Mars opposed Pluto at the moment and how that's probably feeling for most of you, and Neptune's up and coming trine to the Sun and what that's really representing to us in terms of this upcoming solar eclipse, plus the Neptune trining the North Node and what that's really continuously doing for us over a longer period of time. So this picture to me just speaks to me a little bit about the nature of what I perceive that we're kind of doing at the moment, and that's we're really moving through layers of our crystallized structure of our reality. So there's a lot of Capricorn at the moment, of course, and a lot of the rock formation that's in this picture is kind of representing this Capricorn energy. There's a lot of things in our lives as human beings that we've faced that have really closed us off to experiencing life in a way where we can fully trust. And this can range from experiencing a lot of trauma as a childhood, in your childhood, physical trauma, emotional trauma, those types of things. And that has then led you to really harden yourself in this lifetime emotionally, and that can really affect the way that you feel open and safe in relationships, and you can feel vulnerability in sort of interacting with somebody that you really care about, because again, there could be wounding, there could be betrayal, all these many things that naturally come up for us emotionally when we're trying to be open and be safe in our environment. So there's a lot of closed rockiness, rigidity that can come in place and protect us. And sometimes that's a really good thing, and sometimes that actually separates us, and we feel that duality between a connection that potentially can be there versus a connection that is not there because we are closed down. And that might even not even be something that we get to choose a lot of the time. I know for myself personally, with a lot of Capricorn energy in my chart, sometimes it can be very, very difficult to access emotion because it's just so like solidified, like crystallized within the energetic layers. So why this image again with all the rocks? I one of the things that I feel is really significant in the human experience, and that I was speaking about the kind of closed heart, like the closed downness that we have in around our hearts because of experiences that were too much for us to deal with, right? Experiences that were too much for us to digest and process. It may even be just silly things like, for instance, a relationship that ended really, really badly, and you're still kind of stuck trying to process the unresolved material with that, and the next relationship that you're in, or the desire to come into another relationship can be affecting your relationship to the new person based on the unprocessed stuff from the past. And so we've got these barriers, like I said, these barriers around our hearts. And one of the things that really sticks out for me with this energy that's coming up for us right now is the capacity to start softening the hardness, okay? The ability to begin practicing ways of trying to soften that rigidity so that we can be more spontaneous, that we can be more open and a little bit more safer in our environment. We live in a world at the moment that I definitely feel is really, really on edge. That there are pockets of wonderful things happening, and then there are pockets of things that just seem to be very, very clear that we've got a lot of chaos going on at the moment, and there's a lot of wounding that's that's very present with us in our collective shadow. We can see it very clearly, and we're trying to kind of interact with that with each other, and sometimes we get it right and we can feel sort of like healed in interactions, and then sometimes it just becomes so blatantly clear that there's so much wounding between two people that it becomes a judgmental fest of, I'm right and you're wrong, and just pointing fingers and criticizing and judging and persecuting, and never actually feeling a kind of integration of individuality, right? So there's like that separation, and then it just becomes kind of a labeling of those people are wrong, and this type of stuff. And the softening that happens in yourself is the subtle but yet very powerful ability to start trying to break down the barriers of protection that separate us as a human race. And this is a very, very big utopian thing, so I'm not suggesting that the whole entire race will be able to do this. I think it's something that's probably going to be very limited in the capacity for people to actually do, which maybe most of you watching this video right now are on some way, shape or form able to do at some level, right? Including myself. That's why I'm sharing it, because I'm like, this is what I'm trying. I'm trying to soften that hardened state of when I was a child and couldn't process an abandonment experience. And so now I'm sort of hesitant to want to open up in a certain place and be vulnerable there because that scares me, And I'm sure we all experience that, and we all feel the disconnect emotionally between ourselves and other people on some level, and we that isolation sometimes gets so we kind of like do things to numb ourselves from the pain. And it's not a coincidence that I think with Neptune and Pisces at the moment that there's a tremendous amount of numbing out because of the capacity or the struggle to process the magnitude of what is actually occurring at a collective level at the moment. It's like the world is not a friendly place right now, in so much as that there's just a lot of very clear on edginess and a lot of distortion apparent. So the energy that kind of arises naturally through this image here is our ability to break through and to see beyond kind of these barriers that really, because you can see over here around, our perception is closed, it's limited, and here it's open, and this I even chose the kind of light and darkness over there that to potentially heal ourselves from where our shadow self exists, which is the moon representation, and how consciousness can illuminate darker aspects of our psyche through breaking down where we have experienced repression, or where we've experienced our emotional ability to feel free and vulnerable, to be okay and to be present and to feel for us that we can feel safe. This is very much a Cancer thing, So let me go to the actual chart itself and just look at something that's really interesting with the chart. So yeah, you have all this Capricorn stuff. Again, Saturn, South Node, Pluto, very, very much about experiencing the limitations in our reality and feeling blocked almost. And we can actually feel so frustrated with those things that we feel like we're bumping into, and we feel limited and blocked in that area. And yet, in a polarity sense, with all of this Mars stuff, there's the Mars opposed Pluto, Mars opposed Saturn dynamic. There's a lot of energy trying to push us in a new direction. And you'll notice that I'm sure in your lives, you've noticed that there are a lot of shiftings taking place. And a lot of the shifting that's taking place is energy that can support you nourishing a part of your life where there is freedom to put your new self in. Okay. So like in my house, for instance, or in my home, for instance, I've known that that there's a lot of things that needed to be rearranged and reorganized, and for new structures to be put in place in order for more freedom to be available, right? Because of time being taken up, having to do tasks that seemingly were just wasting time. So better structure meant more freedom. And in that sense, what occurred for me, especially yesterday and the day before, was a lot of liberation around my own personal frustrations towards things and not being able to know how to fix those frustrations, and feeling blocked and feeling kind of like really, really annoyed that I can't break through those blocks. But when I kind of like settled into the energy that is very apparent with this Cancer stuff over here, there's a perspective that once we shift how we are trying to force something into action, or trying to force something to make it go our way, then what happens is that there are more options or potentials or availabilities that are around us. And if we see those potentials or those options as something that if we reorganized in our lives, we would actually find more freedom. And so there was a lot more freedom that actually took place through me looking at the way I was psychologically approaching this or interacting with these situations. And because of that, I found readjusting things made it a lot easier. So what I'm suggesting here is that with this Cancer Capricorn energy, there's one thing that's really apparent, okay? I'm sure most of you are experiencing this polarity between freedom and frustration, right? And knowing that freedom lies by making a choice in which you need to go into the unknown, which is why that quote's over there from Osho, which talks about courage, which is an Aries archetype, Mars, the Sun square in Chiron. And so Sun in Cancer, Chiron in Aries, that's a square which reflects the capacity to jump out of what is known, the square between Aries and Cancer. Cancer meaning reflecting security and something that's familiar, traditional, and Aries representing the necessity for breaking out of the known in order to experience new things. And then Mars, which is the archetype of Aries in Cancer, reflecting another dynamic of the necessity to change direction. And then it's opposed Pluto. So it's like Pluto's, what it's doing for us is Pluto material is coming like from beneath the underworld into your psyche, into your reality, and you're dealing with these big feelings and big emotions. And there's a lot going on for you. And there's a lot of needing to change the narrative, needing to change the dialogue that you have with yourself, the story you tell yourself. And where do I get the story part? And that's the Jupiter opposed Venus. And that's squaring the Neptune at the moment. It's like breaking down the story that you've told yourself that you needed to tell yourself at the time that the event was happening, where you got the protection, that now is no longer working for you. And so the necessity to break out of the pattern or the mold or the structure that once symbolized security, safety, and empowerment, but now is preventing you from growing further. And so that's my message today with the summer solstice, is the ability to recognize where limiting belief systems and patterns are preventing you from freedom, and that when you realize that, it's about stepping into the unknown so that you can feel the liberation from that, but also embody courage as the potential for exploring the unknown in ways that can be free, that you can feel free in this way. So this is a really, really powerful energy alignments that are occurring as we head to the solar eclipse that's happening on the 2nd of July in Cancer, which of course means that a whole entire pattern of energy that holds our awareness together is in itself like, collapsing. And the collapsing is eventually going to lead to the birth of a new set of eclipse patterns, which will start off with the solar eclipse and then have the lunar eclipse. So, and both of them are happening in the Cancer Capricorn axis. So what we're experiencing right now is an acceleration of closing down the last 6 months of this eclipse pattern and coming into a place where we are preparing for a new pattern, and the new pattern is a radical shift, a new birthing process, being like a new self-identity being born. And the only way that we can actually come into that is by stepping into a place of newness that you can clearly see is being offered to you right now, and you want to take it, but in remembering that courage leads you beyond the threshold so that you can actually meet this new experience and trust in the developing process that will occur. Because Mercury is also going to go retrograde, by the way, as well, soon. And so that's on the 7th of July. And Neptune went retrograde yesterday. So, not only do we have Jupiter, Venus in opposition to each other, but we've also got Neptune now in retrograde motion, reflecting the shift in what gives meaning to things. So what once symbolized meaning in the context of a 6 months eclipse pattern, and also what gave meaning to a prior psychological and emotional attitude that you had in place that supported you or gave you protection from whatever you experienced in your life, now can no longer work. And so slowly and surely this Neptune retrograde will erode all of the meaning that you've given to things, and so therefore you can then have space to re-energize or realign with purpose and meaning that is of a new personality structure, of a new self-image. So a very, very big period of time coming up for us right now, and I'm super excited to talk about the solar eclipse happening, because it's a Cancer Capricorn axis event. So there's a lot to talk about: gender role, talking about societal constructs and identity structures, and how we will reshape ourselves as a human race going forward. So some very profound things occurring for us in the next 2 weeks. So I look forward to not only talking about that, but also experiencing the shifts in myself. And I hope that on some level that this video provided you with something meaningful to actually see at this point in time. And just remember, like, to give yourself a lot of space to work with this Pluto opposed Mars dynamic, okay, guys? Like, everybody's on edge with it at the moment, but there's a lot of potential for shifting to taking place, okay? All right. So there's two things that I just wanted to talk about before I go. One of them is for any of you that want to study astrology with myself. Raising Vibrations has an astrology school, and you can find that information on our website. I'll put a link in the description below. It is an entire education on evolutionary astrology that is all recorded in video and audio format, and you study at your pace, at your own pace. All the videos are online, and you can download them as well, and all of the modules are categorized for you. And then there's a student group as well, where we kind of like apply the knowledge in our in the practice and processing of charts and stuff. So if you are encouraged to take a step into studying astrology as something that's a concentrated thing and not just studying it on YouTube, because that's why I created the school. It's not because I just want to like have some information on the internet about teaching. It's the specific ability to learn astrology in a way that is concentrated and disciplined, so that you're not sort of confused. Because there's a lot of things on the internet I've seen so far, people studying astrology on the internet and then finding themselves kind of lost in all the myriad of different ways that astrology can be perceived. So this school over here is very focused on grounded techniques and practical applications, so that when you're learning about your own chart and learning about if you want to study it to do professional astrology readings going forward, then it also accommodates that in a very big way. So when you feel that this is something that you want to do, just letting you know that that's available on the site as well, okay? All right, peeps, have a fantastic summer solstice. I hope that you have a great week coming up as well, and I look forward to speaking to you again. Take care. Bye-bye.